Modern worship music is the easiest music in the world to play until it's not. It's so easy to get lost in songs, and if that happens to you, you're not alone. Well, I want to walk through a song today that can be very difficult to follow along with, and we're going to try to simplify this, and I'm going to give you some tips today to figure out how to navigate this on guitar, but also give you some questions to ask your band in your situation and see how you guys are going to uniquely tackle this song. So today, we're going to dig into Elevation's song Goodbye Yesterday in the key of A flat. Let's start by doing a full listen through.
Hands up!
All right. So we're in 4. We're counting 75 beats per minute. I'll explain all this after the song, but let's just walk through and do a full listen, and I'll kind of talk us through it. All right, so we're just hanging on the A flat.
I won't waste another minute in my old ways. Praise the Lord, I've been born again. Goodbye.
Just this guitar intro here. Now the question is, if we're going to be playing this in A flat, I want to play this in G here, the Capo 1. But how do we play this guitar intro? And so I want to talk to you, I'm going to give you 2 options here, using an open G and maybe doing a little retuning here. Okay, here's our verse. Chorus.
I'm living in the light of a new day. I won't waste another minute in my own ways. Praise the Lord, I've been born again. Goodbye yesterday. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. I've got resurrection in my
It's that A flat over the C, the D flat.
I've been born again and again and again and again. You rescued me out of the mess I was in. You traded my sorrow for something to sing. Now I'm dancing on the grave that I once lived in. Again and again and again and again. You rescued me out of the mess I was in. You traded my sorrow.
Knowing the melody of this song is going to be really important. All right. So in our bridge here, we'll talk about this little mark here and anticipating. So our count is going to go. Got these same hits. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So don't let this intimidate you. It looks like a lot. This is just how we would write this in a Nashville number systems world. I like the dots underneath. Sometimes you'll see slashes on top. Same hits here. And 2. So we're walking up on this verse, doing this, so we're adding this little guitar thing in here. We're going to put a question mark. Are we going to do that extra little guitar thing? You can hear some octaves the guitar's throwing in right on the tail end of that. Same 2-5. So this is our instrumental, same chords. Hanging on the 1, back to that guitar intro. Hanging on the 1. Here comes our walk-up. hits.
Praise the Lord, I've been born again.
Cool. All right, so that song's pretty intense. And here's the tough thing. I know some of you are in a situation where you're like, there's no way my band can pull that off. And some of you are in a situation where you're like, I'm expected to pull this off. What today is not going to be. There are all kinds of places you can go online to have someone tell you exactly what they're playing on the album. That's not what we're doing. That's worship artistry, worship online, whatever. Today, I want to help you simplify this song, make sense of it, and again, give you the tools to be able to walk into your situation with your unique instrumentation in your band, with those unique skill levels in your band, and figure out, okay, what parts of this are we gonna do? What parts of this are we not gonna do? How do I make sense of this in my unique situation? And by the way, this song and all the songs in this series are songs I've actually used and coached people through. And so this was a fun one to walk through. Today we're going to get into a little alternate tuning stuff and just see what we can accomplish here. So I've marked in blue some of the things I want to talk about. So first, we're counting 75 beats per minute. Normally 75 beats per minute feels really slow. But we're kind of counting like the halftime in this. We could be counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, but actually we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So we don't ever get like this full rock beat in this song. You know, that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's so much nuance, so much variation, all kinds of hits and fun chord changes, and they're mixing up the progressions in different spots. I love what they're doing here. So we have the key of A flat. Now, what key is your band doing this in? If you have a male vocalist, I'm assuming that you might try for A flat here, but in a lot of these cases, these songs are pretty high. So I would guess that many of you are taking this down to the key of G maybe first and trying there. Now we run into a problem here. I want to play in the key of G. I don't want to play this in A flat. I want to use a capo here. So if this was an A flat or it's in G, what I'm going to show you today, it's going to work for both of those. So if I'm in A flat, I want to use a capo. Here's the capo chart. This is in my newest version of my chord PDF document. So to use this, we would find the key that our song is in, and that's A flat, and we say, boo, I don't want to play in that key. Over here, these are the keys I usually want to play in. I want to play in G and C and D and E and A and even B. I like that open B string. These give me all kinds of interesting combinations and flavors and ways to use open strings. These down here do not. So what I want to know is, if I'm in A flat, what options do I have? Well, I can capo 1 and play in G. That's perfect, sounds great. But I could, if I wanted, capo 4 and play in E. That could be an interesting option. Those of you who like playing in E and know how to play in E, that could be pretty cool. I wouldn't capo much beyond that. I want some low end. I want some beef, and you capo 6 or higher. Some of your guitars can't even handle that. Your intonation's not great. So this one just makes the most sense to me. Let's capo 1 and play it in G. So the first thing we have is this guitar intro line, and let's just tackle this right away. I would imagine that this is kind of one of those lines that it's kind of like the praise lick. It almost feels like if you don't have it in the song, something's really going to be missing. Now, you don't have to have it. You can play this song and it'll sound great and never do that. But for those of you in the situation where you're like, man, I gotta play this line, but I can't tune down a half step like E. Elliott's doing and play this open A flat note here. Now, a couple things we could do. We could, in the key of A flat, I'm gonna capo 1. We could use our open G right here, which capoed 1 is gonna be an open A flat. So we could play this intro line off from this open G. So instead of playing off from this low open A string, what if we played the notes like we normally would, but then we make room underneath to play this open, in this case it would be the A flat note. So it'd be... So instead of before leaving room on the top to hit that open string, we're gonna have to get our fingers up enough that this open G here can ring out. So that's one option. Now, for those of you who are like, I want the beefier tone, let me show you one option. This is really fun, and don't run away because I know many of you don't like alternate tunings, but what if we took our open A here and we tuned it down to G? Now, if we tune it down to G one whole step, and just hang with me, if we tune it down one whole step and then capo 1, well, now we have an open A flat, just like the album. So we could play that same line now with this on top, with this open A on top, and go. So that's one option. Now I really like that. Now here's the thing, right? When you retune a string, now you've messed up all your chord options. Well, I think there's a way to use this to our advantage. I actually forgot about this tuning. I did this years ago and I just have never done anything, never found a place for it, and just kind of, it was lost in time. But if we do this tuning, let me show you some options that we have. So we have this G. You could just play the G like normal and lean your finger over, or just play them both open. And you have your normal G chords. Now here's the thing, what about this 2 chord when we walk up? We'll just go through the key here. So the G to the A minor. Well, normally we'd maybe play an A minor 7th like this, or an A minor here, but now we don't have this open A. So what if we, instead of playing this note here, played it here? And if my thumb's here, and I'm just gonna play 1, 2. And so now I have, so when we go to our bridge section, with that 1, 2, we go. Okay, so that is doable. I don't mind that. Now another thing we could do is play our G here. And I'm just chopping away. I'm not even hitting this high E string here, just. And then I'm playing the note, then leaning, leaning over top of this. I'm gonna play this, and then I'm gonna walk up to my A up here, and I'm gonna flatten my finger across these top 3. So we could also play that bridge walk up and go. And it can get muddy with all these notes in here. I have here, this is more where I had my tone. So there's a lot of complexity there that you're shoving in the low ends. So that's one way to get that 1 and that 2 chord involved there. All right, so now we play the 4 chord a lot. What would we do for the 4 chord? Because if you're playing in G, well, this is my C right there. Well, I can't do that anymore because I'm a whole step down, so now I have to play like this C up here. Well, what kind of options do I have? Well, what's cool about this is we're taking this A string down to a G, which is the 5th in that C chord. So what if I played my C right here, and I muted my top string, and just left this G open? Now what this is gonna do in my 4 chord is it's not only gonna put that big G in the bass, but it's gonna give me this open D, which is like the 9, or the 2 in my chord. Which sounds really great in these modern worship songs, making your 4 chord, adding the 2 or the 9 to it. So I would have my G here, if I'm just kind of muting my high E, don't want to play this. 1 to the 4, the C. So that's one way you could play the 4 chord. Just play your 1 chord open, or you can play it like this, like you have been. And then just pop up and play this 1 note up here, and I just don't want my open E. So it would be like a sus2 in that 4 position. Now, as we go through this, we run into this verse. Now, here we get into some timing stuff. And, thinking through how do we simplify all these hits that they're doing, it would feel really weird to not play these hits in the timing they're doing it. I could write out a really complex way they're kind of anticipating on these 16th notes here, but really, if we know the melody line really well, I think that's the best cue. So how would we play this 4-5-6 or the C, D, E minor walk up that they're doing in the verse? Well, let's try this. If you play now these two notes next to each other, just like you would in a power chord here, this is a C power chord. And I know we're capoed 1, so technically a D flat power chord, but that's our C power chord. Go up, and this is our D power chord. Go up, and that's our E minor power chord. So we could just play these two notes. If you wanted to put the 5th in the bass on this, you could play a normal power chord shape and go. So that's an interesting way of playing a power chord there. So you could play these two notes and just drive the song that way. Let me turn up some beef here. So that's an option for your CD. One thing I don't mind is if you can hit the open notes right, is just playing this note here and letting the open notes underneath it ring out. So I'm muting this top E string. There's some color in there. Those are going to accent those chords differently depending on which chord you're on. So it's really just playing the bass line of that C, D, E minor walk up and letting the open strings ring out underneath it. If you still wanted to use some of these worship chord shapes like I have in my chord PDF, we could play our G right here. And we're used to playing a C right here, but what if we did this? What if we played the C, we took this whole shape up a whole step to right here. And so now I just want this note, these three ringing through. I'm leaning this one over to mute underneath it. And so my 4 chord, my C, D, E minor could look like this. And then I'm gonna take this up and play, because it's a minor, I'm gonna play this note here. So, now what happens if you play this open to E string underneath it? What would that sound like? Let's play that. I think it sounds pretty good. So as long as you're muting this open E string on the top and muting this, then I think you have some really good chord options here for your 4, 5, and 6. You could go. Now that would mean that our 3 chord, we could do the same shape we just did for the E minor, it's just right here. And remember, we just played the A minor just like this. So you could play the whole key going G, A minor, there's your B minor, or maybe 1 over 3, 4, 5, 6. So once you get used to these shapes, this could be a really great option, not just for this song, but for quite a few others. I really like doing this for Graves in the Gardens. So when it comes to timing on our first verse here, this 4, 5, and 6 chord, the words there are again and again and again. Those are our cues for the chord changes. And again, I think the best thing we can do is know this melody line. So we go again and again and again. 3. Now this 5 chord, this D, I could bring up all the way up here, like we were doing. Oops, right here. So I could go, and then go down to my 2, and slide all the way back up to my 5. 2, like that. On that 2-5 chord. If you wanted to play everything here, you could also play a C like this. Like we're used to playing it like this here. But if we open that up, we get that G in the bass. And so we keep this finger here, and we'd have, so that would be like a way to play that C there. The D then you could play right here. And then the E minor, I would just pull this off and not play this one, just mute it. Like that. So you'd have C, D, E minor. So that's the verse timing, and we need to ask ourselves, I wrote down here all the changes question mark. You really need to go in and ask your band, hey, are we really planning on doing all of these variations and all of these various chord changes? Like, communicating with your team is gonna be really, really important. So let's look at the bridge here, this 1 to the 2 minor. And this little mark here is just Nashville number system, I think, for anticipating, I'm pretty sure. And whenever you have a measure of 4 beats and it's shared by 2 chords, you're gonna see an underline there. So this just means like when we're counting 4, we're gonna have 2 chords in there. But this first one is gonna have a first beat, and these gonna have the other 3 beats. But the change is like on this and, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and, so it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. So how do you write that? Well, that's what this little mark is right here. It's saying, let's go to this 2 chord just a half beat earlier on the and of 1. 1 and 2 and 3. And then we have the same 6 minor, the 5-4 type of hits that we had before. And so you could come up on these, just those 2 notes. You could open it if you wanted to. That sounds great. I love that. If you're playing these 2 notes, E minor, D. Very complex there, but I think we can get away with it. And a C. Very dreamy, moody 4 chord. And a major 7th, I think. So. And then just a quick note on the very end, we have this walk up on the refrain. And they just, instead of playing the 1 on this repeat, they just throw the 5 chord in there. Okay, so that was all this alternate tuning stuff. Let me go to a regular tuning here and just play through really quick some of these moves if we were just doing standard tuning. So I know many of you are anti-capo, and you're just like, why would I do that, man? I can play triads, and I can play an A flat, and I can play bar chords. Well, here's the reason. Bar chords in these flat keys just don't sound as good as our open keys do. And so there can be like, I know some of you guys have worked so hard on your bar chords, you've worked so hard on your triads that you just want to just use those and, you know, stay like kind of textbook with these changes. But I'm telling you, these anchor position open chords in the key of G, we can get so much done with these. So if I was playing this in G, I would just have my 1 chord, my G here, or you can hear the, I might open this one up, my open B there. You'll notice I'm not playing this one here. I don't like competing bass notes when I'm doing heavier gain. Hear that mud there? That's not doing anything for us, so I don't want this one in here. I'm gonna just lean this finger over. I want it to cut. So I have this G. Let's just walk up in the key. A minor 7th, I'm gonna keep my 4th finger down here and just play my A minor 7th like this. So I'll go. Or if you're used to playing a G like this. if you're in power chordville and maybe you have enough instruments on stage where you don't need some higher notes in there, you could just go like that, and just play that A power chord down there. And then my 4, 5, 6 is just cake, just 4, 5, 6. So on my verse, again and again and again, 2, 3, 4. To me, those are just like super simple options that I just feel like they're just butter. They just work every time. And then when you see this /3, this 1/3 here, that G over B, well, that's super easy. We just got our B note right there. So say like on our, before the verse does those, that 4, 5, 6 walk up hits, it's gonna air out these chords a little bit more. It's gonna have again and again and again and again, rest, yeah. And then just do that G over B right here with this one. Back to 4. And the chorus, the next chorus then, Goodbye Yesterday, uses those same chords again. Yesterday, 4, 3, 1/3, 2, 3, 4 to the C. So we're going to be accessing in the key, at least our root note here on the 3. I don't think we're going to be using this F sharp in the bass anywhere, but we're going to be using these, all 6 of these positions, or at least thinking here. So that's why I like having this key written out on top. When we hit the verse instrumental section down here, they're doing this walk up, but then as you listen to it, there's some extra hits in here and some extra changes, and that's why I put a question mark, because this is where I could see a lot of your bands going, we're not going to try that. You're going to hear some extra guitar octaves in there. You're going to hear some fast changes, and this is what I would want to ask your band. Hey, are we gonna, when we get to that point in the song, are we trying to pull that off too and do those? And here's my thing: if you can't nail that, don't do it. Just stick with the hits and that you have been doing. And don't try to pull that off just because they did it on the album. We don't have to copy the album. And seriously, like if you're trying to copy the album but you're screwing it up and you keep stumbling over yourself, don't do it. You have to simplify. It's not worth being a distraction. Now, real quick, let's take a look at the dynamic path of this song. So imagine this is like a chill space down here, low energy. This is kind of like a mid-range energy. This is a little higher energy up here. I've mapped out our intro, chords, verse, all that stuff. Now, here's the question. The most important question when I go into a band: who's in the band? What instruments are playing? Together as a band, you're going to have to shape energy and follow this pattern together. And so if you have a lot of instruments, you know, say you have 2 electric guitars and maybe you have a synth, or maybe like you're using tracks and the synth's built in there, you're probably gonna have some more room where you're not gonna have to carry as much on your guitar. But what happens when you're in the band and going, yeah, we don't have a synth, we don't have a second electric guitar player, and we're just that drum, bass, acoustic, piano, electric. Like, there's a lot of weight on you as an electric guitar player to really carry some beef here, which again is why I love these chords. I can span 2 octaves, and I have this, essentially this G power chord built into the bass of this, just to constantly drive it while we're making the change in the low end. And if you wanted to do that intro line still, you'd at least have this open G to work with. Now, one more thing. Let's say that you have a female vocalist who's playing this. I would imagine that they're going to be singing this in C and maybe D. Now, if you're going to be playing it in D, I think this would be a good candidate for this song because we have some easy changes to hit. We can easily hit all three of those majors in minors, or at least in the bass, down here in some great anchor position open chord voicing in D. And you have this open D that you can do the line with. And then what I would do in my chords down here, I love using these open positions where my D looks like this. Here's my D. I'm going to come up here for my E minor. These chords are all in my chord PDF. That D over F sharp, that 1 over 3, I'm going to put my F sharp like this. My 4 chord, my G, I'm going to play this note here. That's the 9 or the 2 in there. So I'm going to play like that. Gives it that nice airy open sound that we want in that 4 chord. The 5 chord, if I'm going to play a sus4, I'll play these two and keep this one here. Or you can drop back. And then for that B minor, I'm going to make that a B minor 7, especially if you play the open E, it's a sus4. So 1, 2, E minor, 1 over 3, D over F sharp. The 4 chord, some might call it D over G. So G to our A, and then 6, the B minor 7. It's all right there. So that would be easy enough to play your 4, 5, 6 walk up. 4, 5, 6. And then the 6, 5, 4 would be. Well, guys, that was Goodbye Yesterday. I hope that helped a little bit, maybe simplify things, or at least just give you a big picture overview of what you're in for, and give you a few questions you could ask your band. Remember too, I do coaching. If you want to do some one-on-one coaching and look at your unique situation, and maybe you have a song you want to work through because you feel like, man, they're giving you some songs where you just freeze and you don't know what to do. Well, I'd love to help you with that. You can email me at cj@don'tgiveup.pro. I'd love to get you more information about that. Guys, we'll see you next time.